In our language, we refer to our way of life as our shalangan. Our interest is really about preserving our way of life, and fishing is vital to that.
Going out on the water and doing what we do feeds something inside. So we always have to do it.
And so we're like managing to catch the last fish. Then we as Indian people, or we as salmon people, the Lactamish people, then who are we after all the salmon's gone?
The Creator put salmon here to nurture us. Nurturing us, it also nurtures everything else.
They give their life for us, and that's very important.
It's in here, see? This is our songbook. This is in Shishwap. Dochdochina is just coming forward from the ocean. Just coming forward, saying they can make it to Adams River. You said they're suffering coming up, but they have determination to come. And then they're gonna make it. And then they come up to end their life. They have their eggs and then they die. They come up so the Sukhwapmach may live because it was our food. Salmon was our food, and at the end there it says, thank you for the salmon. And we thank the Creator for all the salmon has prepared us, and all those salmon that made it up to Adams River. That's how we made the song, so.
We're taught that life begins with that single drop of rain, and it comes down onto the trees, feeds everything, and they think about the trees, what they feed, the understory with the berries and everything, the medicines and the animals and the root people, and how that goes into the streams and then into the lakes, and the survival for the fish, whether they're freshwater fish or the salmon that go to the ocean come back. So really, it's about water, and that the salmon needed to live, we needed to live. And our people tell us that we are actually born into water. We were water beings before we became human beings. We spend 9 months of our life in water, and then we're given freedom to come into the world. If you think about it, most of First Nations people, Indigenous people, live along the oceans or rivers. They depend on water, they depend on the fish, for survival. So I think that's what we have to start thinking about, because that cycle gets interrupted, we have to do something about it, like from the ocean to the mountains.
we look at the world. And from Lummy's perspective, we take a long-term horizon look at the world, and we also are constantly looking back as we look forward. We always say it here that to know where we're going, we have to know where we're at. To know where we're at, we have to know where we come from before we can move on to the future. So that's constantly comes within our conversations, within our community, within our culture, within our doings. It's that constant reminder, and a constant reminder that we're tribal people, and that we're people of family. And so them guides of culture are really guides. They're reminders that they're important things that you need to hold on to, because it's interest of our family, interest of our community, but more importantly, it's the interest of long-term preservation.
There was always fish here. It provided everything you needed to survive. It's where we drew our culture from. We almost grew around the salmon, so we became the salmon people. And in that regard, we grew to respect something that provided so much for us.
I remember a long time ago when I used to fish with my dad when I was just young, little, on his gill netter, and fishing used to be good back then, and they'd catch fish one set, they'd fill up the fish box, have fish on the deck. It was just not like that nowadays. Just hope it comes back for my kids, so when they're doing this when I can't do it. I could have a job and go clock in, but I'd rather be out here doing this. I just want our tradition to keep going, our kids to be able to come out here and do this if, they want to.
We have a ceremony for the first salmon that comes back every year. And the last couple of years I've been thinking about how that the people probably 200 years ago maybe, the ceremony was about giving thanks, just because, they didn't have to really want that salmon, they just had to give thanks because it was there. Nowadays, when we do our salmon ceremony, we're praying that the salmon comes back. So it's flipped. Before it was giving thanks, now we're hoping and praying that the salmon will return.
Quia tea, Kange. Quia tea, Yaya. Quia tea, Jokaba. We come to you, O great salmon, thanking you for giving up your life so we can live, Siam. Thanking you for giving up your life so we can live, Siam. Hip! Hip! Oh.
What does it mean to me to be out in the water? It's everything I've ever known. To be out in the water is to go back home. Everything about it, all the islands, the waters, the feels of moving air, the fish. What is it to me? I mean, it's everything, it's life. It's become such a key point of my existence that I wouldn't have any experiences to share if it weren't for all that time I spent out in the water. It created who I am today because I was that. So going out in the water is like going home. It's that important.
My dad had us out there every weekend. If we weren't fishing, we were on little boats. We were harvesting abalone at minus tides, or we were just simply camping on the islands. And I never understood the connection of why it always felt so good to be out there. And I probably didn't understand that till I was probably almost 48 years old. And there was this map of all our village sites. And I mean, okay, I always knew we came from the islands, but it wasn't till I saw all those village sites that I thought, this is why I feel so at home when we're out there fishing, because we are home.
And it's not just me, it had to come through generations of who we are. When you talk to fishermen, when you hear them say, I'd fish, even if there was no fish, I'd still be out here. And you hear the stories from our people talking about the importance of salmon to our culture and our traditions, and how our place names are tied to that, and Shillang and our way of life is tied to that. That's what it's all about.
I'd fish if there was no fish. We've fished when there's no fish. Like there's times that I've went through the grueling process of getting the net ready all summer long, and then you go out fishing. It's all okay once that net's set and once it's going up, it's all okay. Even if there's no fish to be caught.
Fish, fish. There's a good picture of our catch.
It's so nice to sit there in the mornings and just ride the little waves, look at the golden sunrise. There's just like presence of happiness. It's not even happiness, it's just like when you're perfectly fine with something and you have no problem with it at all. We're seeing a decline in this fishing. And what do? You gotta do something, you gotta make a choice. Even if it's not necessarily the right choice, you gotta make a choice, you gotta do something, because if you do nothing, it ends.
The salmon has such an interrelated connection in the ecosystem because they not only feed humans, they feed the four-legged, they feed the actual nutrients in the rivers and the berries, they feed the winged ones, the eagles, the hawks, and all of that. So the salmon has a real profound impact. If it's taken out of the equation, it'll have a ripple effect on the whole system.
We're tribal people, but we're also really family people. So so you have a responsibility while you're doing all this stuff to sustain this way beyond yourself. I think a challenge we have within the U.S. system is because they so focused on the individual rights that some of that's lost in terms of it's my individual rights to do something, even though it might hurt you or it might hurt the greater good. And so we have to say, well, let's come up with plans of how we all share in that pain, but we're gonna try to fix this stuff. By just doing with the salmon, we're gonna make it a better place to live. Because to do it, we have to fix the drainages. To do it, we have to fix the impacts on the Saley Sea. I mean, if we polluted the Saley Sea, as I call it, made the pond smaller, to fix that, we have to deal with some water quality issues. We have to deal with some temperature issues. What that elder councilman, the late Sam Kagi, would talk about, we're really talking about common sense. And it should be all of our interest even to do that. It's not to say, this is okay. No, it's not okay. It's about, let's put some common sense to this, because especially when we're thinking about all our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren? What are we going to leave them here? I mean, is this really a better place? Are we leaving it a better place for our children, our grandchildren?